Hey everybody, it's Nick from Android Headlines, and today we're bringing you our full LG G5 review. So you may have heard of the LG G5. It's only one of the biggest flagship phones this spring, and of course it's the first flagship from LG this year. Everything you've come to expect from a flagship is here. That includes top-of-the-line specs. You're going to find a Snapdragon 820, that's the fastest mobile processor on the market, 4 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage on this one, as well as a micro SD card for expandable storage. This one even has an all-metal build. That's going to be a first for LG, and it's even a semi-modular design. That's also a first for LG and a first for pretty much any other OEM out there as well. What's interesting here is that this metal build has a primer applied to it, so it doesn't feel like bare metal or anything. Some users actually might think that it's plastic. At first I ignored this plasticky feel because it's a little more hollow than some other phones thanks to that modular design, but once we got the confirmation from LG about it, I realized that that's what it was. Still though, it doesn't make the phone feel cheap at all or look cheap, and that's really what matters in the end. And the bottom line is the metal build is going to give it a little more durability than a plastic build probably would. Lines on the phone are absolutely gorgeous. Looking at the curves and everything else that LG has built in here, it really is a very interesting looking phone. Some people definitely don't like that camera module on the back, and that's totally understandable. It sort of feels like a Nexus 5X, maybe just a little more modified. We went over a lot of the hardware segments in that first look, so I won't touch on that too much. But this really is a great size, and it feels fantastic when holding. One-hand usage is also really good because of the sloping sides, and on top of that, it's easier to pull down notifications because of the curve on the top, which actually curves down from the top of the screen to the very top of the phone. Bezels around the screen are going to be larger than previous generation LG phones, and likely will garner some complaints from folks used to LG's non-existent bezels in the past, but these aren't large by any means, and they're really not a problem at all. USB Type-C is going to be on the bottom. That's going to be that brand new USB standard that started being adopted last year. That means that you may have to hunt for charging or connection cables if you're hanging out somewhere for a long time, but the reversible nature of USB-C and the general quality of it is a great trade-off. It's also got Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0, which means an 80% phone charge in 30 minutes. Yes, that really happens. It charges incredibly fast. That modular bottom does disconnect easily, but can't happen on accident, meaning you can't accidentally press the button and it's going to fall out or something equally ridiculous. Some people do have concerns that the modular line on the back could see additional dust and grime buildup, but in the last couple of weeks of use, I really have yet to see this happen. That modular bottom also creates a new failure point, but it's very unlikely that anyone would be bending a phone like many of these video tests do. There is a removable battery in this module. That's actually one of the biggest selling points, but it's kind of weird how you take it out. It actually almost feels like you're going to break the unit at first, and honestly, I'm not real crazy about this method of snapping the battery inside. Either way, once you get used to it, it's not that big of a deal, and you can change out that battery in about 10 seconds flat if you need to. Moving on to the display, this is a really great IPS LCD panel if you enjoy LCDs. It's super bright, and it can even get super dim when you need it. It's got excellent viewing angles, mostly accurate colors, although the panel is a little on the cool side of the spectrum for my liking. You'll never have to worry about performance of the phone though. Even though this is a Quad HD panel, it's going to smoke most phones out on the market. I never saw it stutter, jitter, or slow down, and that's pretty consistent with most LG phones on the market anyway, not to mention that Snapdragon 820 processor inside. Games are perfect, even the highest detail ones run at a perfect frame rate without stutter, and it really is a great performer. Taking a look at the supported bands, this is a very carrier-minded phone, and it looks like only Europe has an unlocked model for now. That battery life is going to be absolutely excellent. I found it to be better than the Galaxy S7 no matter what. During light usage times, it got me 43 hours without a charge, and about 3 hours of screen on time during those 2 days. During one heavy usage day, I got almost 9 hours of straight YouTube watching. Obviously, though, that's only going to get you a half a day if you're going to go full-on video warrior with it, but regardless, that is impressive given that this is a relatively small 2800 mAh battery, which is 200 mAh smaller than the previous generations of G phones from LG. There are some components that make it feel like a step back in some ways, though. For instance, that 3.5mm headset jack up top only outputs 16-bit audio versus the 32-bit audio that the V10 gave you. Those looking for HD audio can rely on the aptX support for Bluetooth audio, as long as your Bluetooth speaker supports that aptX HD codec. If you do need 32-bit hi-fi sound, there is a module that pops on the bottom, although it does kind of feel like they held the audio hardware back just to have a module to sell. And in fact, this modular design doesn't necessarily feel all that fleshed out. I'm just hoping time rectifies it because it really is an amazing idea and has tons of potential. On the software front, you're looking at LG's UX 5.0. That's going to be built on Android 6.01 Marshmallow. It's a visual refresh in a couple of ways, but it doesn't really feel very different from the G phones in the past couple of years. LG says it's easier, more intuitive, etc., but it really still feels feels too convoluted for my liking. There's too many hidden options, menus to scroll through, things that aren't labeled well, etc. It's just not the greatest organization in the world. There's also that controversial launcher that doesn't ship with an app drawer, and that's actually how the phone ships as well. If you want the update to get the app drawer back, you actually have to go to LG's App Store, which involves creating an LG account and signing in, and I guarantee plenty of people are never going to do that, which means lots of those folks won't ever see an app drawer until that OTA goes out for the update. Thankfully though, that fingerprint scanner is fantastic, accurate, and fast, unlike my experience with the V10. It's really got excellent placement and doubles as a power button just like the V10. What's really interesting about the camera on this phone is that it actually has two separate cameras on the back, not just one. Kind of like how the V10 had two cameras on the front. One is a wide-angle lens and one is a regular lens. So that wide-angle lens is actually a 135-degree wide-angle lens, which makes it really, really wide. This is going to be very similar to a GoPro or something like that. The possibilities for photography and video that come from this are really truly the most interesting part of the camera software. That's really good because the photo quality in general is incredibly disappointing, especially coming from the V10. LG at least got the balance side of the house, right? You got great auto exposure balance, white balance, color accuracy, etc. But the actual quality of the photos themselves really just isn't top tier. I had way too many photos that were blurry, lacked detail when you zoomed in, and were just overblown or underexposed. Video quality at least was just as good as the V10, but it's missing that manual mode that made the V10 so special, which is another way that the phone feels like a step backwards. At least all the social and creative things are here from the V10, and there's plenty of modes, of course. And on top of that, one of the really cool, unique features that you can do with the G5 are switching between the lenses on the fly while recording video. There's a slight pause when you're switching between these lenses, but it's really not a big deal, and although you will notice it on video, the fact that you can keep recording and switching the lenses really just makes it special. I absolutely love the wide-angle lens, and I've used it for tons of different things at this point, including even some videos on our YouTube channel here. All this to say that this isn't a bad camera in the end. It's just not as good as the V10, and probably most importantly, when looking at the direct competition from other OEMs, it's not as good as the Galaxy S7 or the Nexus 5X and 6P cameras, and that's the bottom line. Overall verdict, an excellent phone, but ultimately, it's a little bit disappointing considering the greatness that LG achieved in 2015 with the G4 and the V10. Check out the written review for more detail, and don't forget to check us out on Google+, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Wherever you're at, we're at. Thanks for watching. Until next time.